Hey guys, welcome to this session on shell scripting by Intellipaat. The urge of shell scripting is increasing by the day. Shell scripting languages can be used for multiple purposes, such as automating repetitive tasks, backup and maintenance of databases, and running cron jobs. So today we have come up with a comprehensive tutorial on shell scripting. So before we start with this session, do like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Let's go through the agenda. We'll start off by understanding what is a Linux shell, and then we'll write our first shell script. After that, we'll learn how to assign variables and we'll look out on some of the examples of shell scripting. After that, we'll work with different loops. And finally, there would be a quiz to recap whatever you have learned in today's session. So put down your answers in the comment box so as to check if you have answered correctly. Also, if you have any queries, feel free to write down in the comment section. We'd love to help you out. So without any further delay, let's start off with this session.
First of all, here we talk about what Linux shells are. You might have known by now what a Linux shell is. As I said, Linux has a kernel which is the core, and that kernel talks to the hardware, but the kernel doesn't understand the language we users use, so that's why there is a shell. Shell is the interpreter between the kernel and the user. So the user types in commands for whatever he needs, and the shell interprets them and then sends it to the kernel for execution. So this is how Linux system works. The shell is an environment in which we can run our commands, programs, and shell scripts. So shell is very important for a shell script to run. And it gathers input from you, the user, and executes programs based on that input. When a program finishes executing, it displays the output. So this is simple. You write a command in the shell will interpret it, execute it, and then give you the output. So this is how it works. And shell script, it is a series of commands. You say if you want the output of 3-4 commands, you want the listing ls, you want the date, you write date, you want the something else, you want to remove a certain file, you write rm and the file name. So if you want to do a series of commands, you can write them one after another, and that becomes a shell script, and you run it, and that runs those series of commands. So that is a shell script, and the shell is the interpreter. Okay, so what are the types of shells in Linux? Actually, since it is open source, it was being parallelly developed by a lot of contributors. So that's why we have a myriad of options in Linux. We just don't have one shell in Linux. There are many shells, and you are free to install and use any shell you want. So there's the Bourne shell, the sh, called normally sh shell. Then we have the Korn shell, ksh shell. Some of the Linux distributions use ksh, some use sh, some distribution use bash, born again shell. Then we have the POSIX shell, which was the primitive shell of the Linux when it was first introduced. And we have the C shell distributions use, and we have the 10x C shell called TCSH. So these are various types of shell. We should be concerned about the born again shell, because bash is the most famous shell, which is being used by most Linux distributions nowadays, because it is very advanced and very secure. So we will go ahead and do all our scripting tutorials using bash, and I recommend you to use this shell in your Linux distribution. By default, you don't have to worry about that. By default, CentOS 7 and Red Hat distributions all have bash shell as the default shell. So bash shell scripts are pretty robust and pretty much the latest ones, latest in vogue. So you should go with bash shell. It is very advanced, and there are lots of good resources available over the internet if you want to learn more about the shell. So let's begin with trying to write a shell script and understand how it puts together a list of commands. Before we go ahead and start the shell scripting, let me tell you, I have a virtual box running, okay, with Linux distribution here, and what I will do is I will log into this system using the SSH, because that will make it more convenient. This is the shell from which I will log in to that system. Let me put in the password. Yes, I have logged into the system. So this is a Linux system where I have installed CentOS 7 for, yes, this is a CentOS Linux system, CentOS 7. So here we will try out our shell scripting. If you are using a Windows system, you can install VirtualBox with Linux running on it, and then simply you can do it this way. You can just log into that system, open up a terminal like this, like I have done here. To open a terminal, by now you know how to do that, but let me just tell you again. You can go to applications and click on terminals, okay, or you can find it, I think, in utilities. Yes, in utilities you can click on terminal and this screen will open, and here as well you can start writing your commands and shell script. So you can do it this way if you are using a Windows system. For my convenience, I am login through the shell I have in this Mac system. So we are in the same system. Actually, I have logged in to this VirtualBox. Okay. So anyways, you just need a Linux system to run your shell scripts. Okay. And for making things very organized, I have created a directory. You too can do it. Where I will store all the shell script we will be learning and creating for each tutorial. So here, but I insist that you should try writing all these shell scripts from scratch by hand. If you just copy and paste scripts or read other scripts, you are going to learn, but you would not be very comfortable with scripting. Scripting is just like swimming, you can say. You have to try it yourself to know what it is. One can only guide you, but only yourself you can teach it, because this is programming, so you have to try it in order to see the fun in it and understand. So here we have a subdirectory, fundamentals. Inside it, I have a series of shell scripts for this tutorial, and I'll first explain how to write a shell script from scratch. Like, say we write a shell script, hello world, just the first shell scripts. So let me first tell you, before writing a shell script, you should be very familiar with the VI editor or the Vim. Okay, so because in Linux you get that editor out of the box and you can create your files using that editor. So we use that editor, and if you're not acquainted with the Vim, you should just learn the few basics of the editor. So I just write the editor's name and the file name which we are going to create. Now see, the extension for shell scripts, you can in fact go without an extension, because in Linux the file name doesn't make a matter. It will work as if even if I don't give the extension. But still, for recognizing the file, normally we use extensions for shell scripts like sh or the name of the shell, bash or ksh or csh, whatever it is. So here we will write a bash script. So let's name it vim hello world.bash. So now it will open a blank file. And now, before starting this, let me just give you a few basics on using the VI editor if you don't know it yet. VI, we just VI or Vim in case of that, we just open up the editor. But here normally when you open the editor, you cannot type anything. If I type anything, it won't work. So first thing you have to do is you get into the insert mode by pressing I. You can see here in the bottom of the screen you get the insert option. Now if I type anything, any random stuff, we will be able to view it, because now the system is in insert mode. If I press enter, it will go to the next line, and then we can type more stuff, okay, and more and more. So this is how it works. And once you are done with that, you have to press escape. You can see the insert mode goes away, and then here you should go do a shift colon, this symbol colon comes here, and if you do W, it will write the file, same as Control S, which we do in files in Windows. So that will save the file. So here we do W colon W to save the file, and if you want to save and exit, you write WQ, so that writes and then quits. So this is how we save a file in Vim. You should get acquainted with that. If you are not very comfortable, you can write this file anywhere. Say you have Windows, you can use a very good editor called Notepad++. You can download that. Notepad++. This is a very good editor for writing shell scripts. You can write your scripts there and then copy that into your Linux system and then execute it. But it is very good to do it using Vim, because Vim is the ultimate Linux IDE, so you can use it to write your shell scripts and run it there. So it is difficult to learn it in the beginning, but you have to get acquainted if you're in the world of Linux. So here we first we write a shell script, so we name it and open it using Vim. So let's clear the stuff which we had tried out right now. So for deleting lines here in VI, you just do DD, so it will really delete each of those lines. So I did DD 3 times, so 3 lines are gone. Okay, so let's move on. So now we have a blank file which we have entered. Now let's get into the insert mode by pressing I. Now here we begin the shell script. The first line identifies which shell we are going to use to interpret the script. So here I write /bin bash because we are going to use the bash shell. This line should be there in every shell script because it explains which shell is going to interpret it. Even if you don't put it, it would run in the default shell, but it is a very good practice to announce the shell which is going to be used as the interpreter. And now you might be wondering, what are these symbols? This is the path of the shell, so that is fine because bash shell is inside /bin directory, but this has a significance. Now let's get back to the slide to know more. This is called the shebang. Okay, why this? Because it is called shebang because the hash symbol is called a hash, and this symbol is called a bang. Okay, so this is called a shebang. It is actually the pointer which tells that bash shell is going to use to interpret the script. Here in this example we have just sh, so the sh shell is going to be used as the interpreter. So anyways, we have this bash shell written here. And one more important thing, next you should begin by writing a few comments and as for what is the purpose of the script and stuff like that. So for commenting you put a hash sign, but not with this exclamation. Okay, so if you put a hash sign in the beginning of any line, then what happens, that line is not executed. It is just a comment to let people know what the purpose of the script is. Okay, so here we write that this is my first script to say hello. So that is the purpose of the script. Here you can put other information like author of the script, the company name if you're working for some company, or whatever you want. So author is here, you can write your name and stuff like that. So that part is done. So we have commented the script, and now here you can write the Linux commands, the conditions, whatever, and then the script is ready. So here we just want to say hello to everyone. So for that we use the echo command in Linux. One more thing, to do shell scripts very well, you should be very good at Linux commands. So try to use the man pages, try to use the internet, and learn more and more Linux commands as they come. It's not going to happen overnight, or in a few days you learn lots of commands. It doesn't happen that way. If you keep on using Linux, you will be faced with different problems and start learning commands. It's just like increasing your vocabulary in English. So we learn more and more words as we grow. So that's how it happens in Linux as well. You learn more and more commands as you start using it more frequently, but you should be knowing the basic commands, and that is enough for writing shell scripts. You can always refer to the internet for knowing more and more, or even you can mail us to ask questions if you're stuck somewhere. We are always there to help you out. And then let's get back here. So first we want to say hello to everyone. So we write echo. Echo is the command to echo something or say something back. So we want to say hello. So I put double quotes just to make that string is a text string. So that's why I want to ensure that everything works well. Even if you don't put these quotes in this case, it would work, but let's put that as a good practice. Hello world. If you want to write more, you can do that. Again, you write echo. Say in second line I want to put some dots like this, that I can do. Say I want to do a third line where I want to write, this is my first script. So that also can be done. So you can just like this, lines after lines, you can type, and then you can save the file and execute it. Okay, so then let that be, and in the last line you can write exit. So that exits the shell. I mean, once you are completed, the shell will conclude, but that is not necessary here. Why? Because see, here we are running these three commands. So once these commands are executed, the shell will by itself exit out. So exit is not required. Later on you will learn the cases where you need to exit forcefully from a script. In case of loops and other complex stuff, you need that. So we'll come back to it later on. So here this is our first script. So let's save it. For saving, as I said, WQ, write and quit. Another option is there, you can write :X. Before that, what did I do? I pressed escape and then shift : and then WQ. So the file is saved. If we do the listing, we can see this is our file which we created right now. So our file is ready, but if we execute it, it would not work. Why? Because as we can see that here this file has read write permission, that's fine, and read for the group users and read for the other users. So this is not going to execute because it does not have the executable permission. This X is not present. So for that, what we have to do, first of all, we have to put the executable permission for the file to execute. So when you write a shell script, you write it and then do this chmod plus X, that makes the file executable, and then the file name. Okay, so So this is the second step. Don't worry, we have all this documented here. Say here is the shell script example, like one we were trying right now, and here I explain you how to make it executable. So these commands are also a part of this tutorial, so you can make the script executable in that manner as I showed you. chmod plus x, this file name. You can also do it in this way, chmod 75555 makes it readable, writable, and executable. Okay, so then the file name hello world. If I press enter, this will also make it executable, but you can use any one of these commands. So I have used this command chmod plus x, the name of the file. So now this is done. Let's clear the screen, do an ls -l. So now we can see this has turned to green. What does that mean? That the file has become executable. See here, x has appeared for each of the users, so we can now execute this file. Now, how to execute a script? There are many ways of doing that. First of all, you can do this // and the name of the script. Okay, now if you do this and press enter, the script would execute. See, it prints hello world, then the dotted line which we did, and then this is my first script. So the script is working. And even you can learn execute the same script by using this. You can write bash, because the bash shell will execute, and then the name of the script, same thing, the output is same because it executes. So you can execute in either of the ways you like. Only thing you have to remember is you have to provide the path where the script is running. Now since we are inside the fundamentals, this directory, and the script is here in the same directory, so we are just writing // and the name of the directory, or bash name of the directory. Say we are in some other directory, and if we want to run this, then from there we will have to give the entire path. Say I go to the /temp directory. Now if I run this previous command, it won't run because no such file is there inside temp. Temp has some other stuff. So from temp, if I want to run the same file, what can I do? I can write bash, but I'll have to give the full path. So here /root, and then I'll have to provide the path where I have crept it in shell scripting and inside fundamentals, and then I have to provide the name of the file. So bash, and then the entire path leading to the script where we have kept it. So now if we press enter, we can execute it, and it doesn't anymore show the that the file does not exist. So this is how a script executes. You have to give a full path if you are not in the same location, and if you are inside the directory with the script, then you can directly run it. So let's get into that directory again and start proceeding to our next script. So here we have this script successfully run. You should try it in your own hands and see if it works, and you should remember the syntax, the shebang first, then the comments, and then you start writing. So here are some more examples, so we can try those as well. I have already written these to make things faster, but you should understand and try writing each one of them yourself so that you get a hang of things. So the first script here, let's go through it. Again we have the shebang, then the comments, and you do all this stuff here, comments. Then what the script does is, we want to see the present working directory, means where we are currently, and we want to see what is inside this directory. We want to run these two commands. So in order to do that, we have written this script, pretty simple. So we have written pwd that will show the directory where we are, and ls will list the files inside the directory. So here, if we execute the script, this will start working. So let's make it executable. Okay, so here we see that all the scripts I have written are not executable. So let's make them executable all at once without having to run it again and again. So chmod plus x. So if I do star, anything inside the directory will become executable. Star is the wildcard character, asterisk. So anything here will be executable. So now if I do the long listing, I can see all have become green and got the executable permissions. So that is very good. Now we can execute this file. So let's see what happens if I execute that file. So I give the file name dot slash to execute it. Here see, we got the output. The first line tells the directory is this. Here is where we are, and then the second line tells the different files which are present in this directory. So that is very good. Similarly, let's move on to some other examples which we have created. So this is the second example. Let me explain the script to you first. So again, we open the script using vi. Let's use vim. You should make it a practice to use vim because it is improved editor, and it will show you the script in different colors so that you understand this is a command blue color, this is a command brown color, and stuff like that. But if you open in vi, let me just show you, you would not get any differentiation. So it's a bit difficult when you have long scripts. See, everything is in black, or if you're using a black screen, it would be in white. So vim will differentiate everything and lets you tell the errors. It also has many other advanced features and easy for writing shell scripts. So here the second shell script, what does it do? Let's see. The first line, it echoes a dash 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 one line, so that's understood. Then what does it do? It runs the date command, so that will print the date. Fine. And again the line, and then pwd means it will print the present working directory, and then it does a ls-l of the /boot directory. That means the script, what it does is it prints the current date, it prints the current directory, and then it lists the /boot directory. Good enough. Let's run it and see how it goes. Wow. So here we can see it printed the dash, and then it printed the date and the time and the year, and then the current directory, and then what is inside the /boot directory. So this is wonderful. So you can see you have run 3-4 commands at a time. You can format it, make it beautiful and pretty printed. So this is how and magically the shell script works. Okay, so you can write all these kind of shell scripts and do stuff automatically. So here number 3, this shell script is very important. Before moving to that, this we have already covered. Executing a script, you have to do a chmod once and the script becomes executable. You can do ls and check ls-l and check whether the executable permission has appeared or not, and then you can run the script. So next, one important aspect of shell scripting is assigning variables. Okay, variables, what variables are, first we have to understand, and then we can understand more complexities of variables. So first of all, variables are values which are stored as strings and which can or may change for each execution of the program. Say I want to print the name of the user who is writing this shell script. So my name is different than yours name, most probably. So if I want to print my name, I cannot just write echo and my name, because if you run that script, it would not echo your name. Say someone asks you, write a script to echo the name. Okay, so you write a script and then inside it you write echo and then you put your name. Say your name is Tom. You write echo Tom. So that is fine. But say another person, John, is trying to run that script. If he runs, it will print your name is Tom. So that is wrong. Okay, so that's why we use variables. In the case of variables, what happens is you can assign a certain operator which will take input from the user or somehow manage to change things when they change. Okay, let's try it out so that you can understand better. Here you can see this is a simple script. I have done away with the commenting to make it more simple. So here we have this bash shells, shebang mentioned here. Now str, this is a variable. Say we have a variable str and inside it we have stored the value hello world. Okay, and then we echo $str. When you want to echo a variable, you have to put a dollar in front of it. Now what will happen if I execute the script 3? Here it shows this command is not found. That means there is some problem. Here let's remove this. So here if we now want to execute this script, what it will do, we are trying to print the variable. So what is stored inside the variable? The string hello world. So it should print hello world. So let's save this file, come out of it, and then run that script 3.bash. So once it is executed, what does it show? Hello world. So this is how the variables are stored. Say you want to print something else. Say you want to print the name of the country we are staying in. So that can be done. You just change the string, that is the variable value. So you don't have to change the entire script or write something in echo. So you can directly change it over here. Say we want to write India here or anything, any country name. So if we run it, it will print India. So this is how this scripting thing works. So I hope you understood how to store stuff inside a variable. Just write the variable name. Let's reiterate because this is very important. You are going to need all this knowledge again and again writing shell scripts. So this is the name of the variable and inside it you write the value. If you are writing a string, so you can write it with double quotes. If you're just writing a number, you can leave it like that, and then echo the variable name that will print the variable. Okay, so this is how a variable is stored. Now let's get to a bit more advanced stuff about variables. This is in the fourth script which we have written. What this script does, it takes the variable from the user. So this is very important and interesting as well. So here if we do this, we want to take the input from the user. So for that we use a command called read command. Read command will take the input from the user. As said, read command allows you to prompt for input and store it in a variable. So let's see the example. What it is doing, the shebang line, that's fine. Next what it does is it touches two files, that is it creates two blank files called file1 and file2. Okay, and then what it does, it echoes something echo with -n will wait for the user input. Okay, so if you do this, it will echo the enter the name of the file to delete. That means you have created two files. Now it will ask you to delete one of them. So say you say file 2 needs to be deleted, then it reads the this name which you mention with which the user mentions as a variable called file. Okay, and then later on you pass the command rm and the file name, and then it asks you if you want to delete, and then if you press yes, it gets deleted. So that is how this script works. Take some time to read it. The most important line is this: read file. So why this file? You can name it into any variable. Since we are deleting a file, that's why this variable name is file. The command is important. Read what it does. It reads the input from the user in the previous line. If you run this script, you will understand better. Let's clear this screen and let's execute this file dot slash. See, it is asking us to enter the name of the file to delete. Like it created two files, file 1 and file 2. Say we want to delete file 1. Then it asks that if you want to remove the regular file 1, I say yes. That was your decision. Okay. So now if we do a list, we see that only file 2 is present, file 1 is not there. So that means our script has worked and it has taken input from us. It was asking us a question, enter the name of the file, we named the file, and it took that input. So that is what I am trying to explain there. The read command will take the input from the user. Here we have passed the input when the script was running, that was read by the script, and then it used that as a variable to remove it. Here it has written rm-i and the dollar file, the variable which is being read here. So that is a variable because it can change. Sometimes if we run the same command, same script, and if I put file 2, then it will remove file 2 and leave behind file 1. You do the listing and see file 1 is there now and file 2 is deleted because our variable was file 2. So this is how we can put inputs to the user and then get take inputs from the user in fact, and then execute them inside our scripts. So read command is very important. You should go through all the shell script examples we are going through here and try to use them yourself in different cases. Now assigning variables, command substitution, this is also very important. What command substitution does, let's read another script, this 5. This is about command substitution. You can also store the output of certain commands into a variable. Okay, say list means ls and date means the date command. So we can also do that. That will help us to print things in a proper way. Say we want to write today's date is, and we want to print today's date. So how do we do that in a shell script? So first of all, we mention that date variable, this variable date is equal to the date command. If you write a command, it is very important to put backticks. See, these are not single quotes. There is a difference between the single quote and the backtick. The backtick is the key just below the escape button in your keyboard. So that is a backtick, and single quote is on the right hand side near the enter or the return key. So you use the backtick, and within it you write the command which you want to store as a variable. So once it is stored as a variable, it makes us easy to print it. So we write today's date is and then $date. So what is $date? It is actually running the date command and storing the value. So it will print the date. And similarly, if you want to list the files it's $list. So $list is this. So this is how we can store commands inside variables. So that is also called command substitution. If I execute that script, what do we see? Today's date is this and this, and the list of files are this. So why this is used? It is used to make shell script outputs pretty. You cannot just print the date. If I just write date, it will print the date, but if I want to make it look like this, today's date is this, then these are the files inside this directory, to make the reporting, the shell script output very understandable. So we use storing commands inside variables and then print them. So these are all bits and pieces. You might be thinking, why am I learning this stuff? Because these are bits and pieces which are the fundamentals of shell scripting, and when you try more complex scripting, these will be the tools which will come in handy to make the script hold proper. So this is the command substitution for storing variables inside the storing command outputs inside the variables. So that was done. Last thing about variables is how to do mathematical operations using shell script. This is also very important, and you need to know how it works. So for that as well, I have a few examples. The sixth script, maths.bash. So here in maths, what happens if you want to evaluate something in Linux? You can use the let command. Okay, we can see here all the examples are printed. Let statement can be used to do mathematical functions. So here we will learn how to use that. Say you want to do this operation 10 plus 2 into 7. Okay, so how it is done, you just write what you want to do, store it into a variable, and put let beforehand. That means let x is equal to so and so, let y is equal to so and so. One important thing is here, even you can use the previous variable and then operate on it. So that is very cool, because you don't know the value of x yet, you just know the components, and you just put it there. And y, what it will do, it will execute x, use the value of x, and do other operations over it and print the result. And then you print x is $x because it's a variable now, and y is $y, so that will print the output of x and y, and it will very fast do the calculation and give you the output in real time. So I do this, so it did the calculation, x is this, y is this. So this is how mathematical substitutions and variables are stored, and it is operated. So you need to do this as well, because sometimes in scripting we might need some automating something which needs some certain calculations. So that can be done from here, okay, by using these operators like let. Okay, so there is another such maths example, this one. You can use dollar with these double brackets, double first bracket, and then inside it you can directly write it as well. So this is another way of doing it. You can use the let, which I showed in the previous example. I'm showing this example just to demonstrate the number of ways you can do the same thing. Say you want to do some mathematical operation, you can directly write it inside this and store it as a variable, and then print it, echo the answer is $p. Similarly, there is another way also to do mathematical operations. You can use square brackets, write stuff inside it which you want to calculate, put dollar here and value. So you should have to do this yourself and try to remember the different syntax which can be used. It is all about remembering and understanding the script. So that is pretty simple. It's a variable, so dollar, and inside it you put the operation with double brackets. So that is the syntax, or you can do it this way, more simpler. And if you execute it, it will print the same output. So if I do this, if I execute this, you see you did it in two ways. Answer is coming the same because both are correct syntax to use. So that is how you do the maths operations. Okay, now comes the interesting part. Here we have certain questions for you, 3 questions, which you should try to apply what you have learned in this tutorial and then try to execute them. The first one I will demonstrate it to you because it is the most complex one here. These two are easy. I will just tell you how to do that, and if you can do that, it's fine. If you cannot do that, then I will include the scripts along with this tutorial, so you will get that along with this script. So example 1 is done for you. 2 and 3 I will include here, and then you will get it. But you should not try to first see the inclusion. You should try to do it yourself. If it doesn't work, then you should see the answer. Okay, so let's try this here. First shell script, what it is asking: write a script to obtain the user's name and his age from input and print the year when the user would become 50 years of age. So now shell script should be first understood how to execute it. It should be very logical in plain English language, and then you try to write it. Now this is, you might feel this is overwhelming. What is this? How do I know when the user becomes 50 years of age? So first of all, let's understand again what it is asking. It's asking us to obtain the user's name and age. So what we have to do here, we have to use the variable, because these are variables, user name and age, and we have to collect it from the user. So tell me what we are going to use. We are going to use the read command. So read command will read the user's input. Okay, so we will use read command twice, one time for getting the user's name and other time for getting the user's age. So we have these two variables inside the script stored, and then it is asking us to print the year when the user would become 50 years of age. So this is a bit complex and requires some mathematical calculations. So we have learned that as well, so we can use that. So for that, let's say, how do I calculate when I am going to be 50? Say I am 30 years old now. So when I will be 50? After 20 years. So how do I know what is the year after 20 years? Now it is 2016, 2016. So after 20 years it would be 3036, right? So how do I calculate that? First I know the current year. So current year is 2016, and then I know the current age, which I get from the input from the user. He says he's 30 years old, so I add that current year to his age, to I did the difference. Now he's 30, so I subtract 30 from 50 and get 20. So after 20 years he would be 50, so I add 2016 to 20 and I get 2036. So this is the logic. So let's just check how the script is going to work. I have already written this because this was a bit complex for you at this stage, but you should understand each and every line of the script and try to write it yourself without seeing it, and try to execute. And if you go wrong, just check the syntax. So that is how you learn. So first of all, we want to know the current year. So current year, you can know it in a number of ways. Either you can ask the user and use the read command, what is the current year, and then the user will type it. But I have done it in a more sophisticated way where the system will fetch the current year. So you should learn this. If I write the date command with plus the %y and this syntax, then it prints the current year. you can try it outside the script as well. So I am outside the script. So if I just write this command, it shows 2016. So I get the year from this command. So I use this date command plus y, which gives the year, and store it as a variable called cur_year for the current year. Then I ask the user, enter your name, and then read the variable as name. Okay. Then I ask the user the age and read the variable as age. Okay. So that is done. Then I will do the mathematical calculation where I write 50th year is equal to the 50 minus the current age. Say his current age is 30. 50 minus 30, that is 20. So after 20 years he will become 50. So that is this calculation plus the current year 2016. If I add them, that will give us 2036. So the user will become 50 years old in 2036. So we print that hello $name. $name will be the name which has been captured here after asking the user. So hello, that username will be printed. You will be 50 years old in $50 at the year. So this variable. So after the calculations of this entire thing, whatever value will become, it will be stored here. So that will be printed here. So if I run this script, let's see what magic happens. Example 1, the script. So it's asking me to enter my name. Say I enter the name John. And it's asking the age. I write 30. It's asking, hello John, you will be 50 years old in 2036. So that is wonderful. The shell script automatically calculates stuff and lets you know. The only thing is you have to do it properly. Now let's move on to the other two scripts, and I'll explain you how these scripts actually would be done, but you have to try it yourself, and I'll add these scripts to help you with them, or I'll do it right now and add it there, but you should try this yourself. So it's asking to write a shell script to create a directory called test00 inside /temp and 3 blank files inside it and list them. So this is very simple. First we have to create a folder inside /temp called test00, 3 files inside that, and then list them. So let's write the script vim and then example2.bash. Inside it, first what do? I write /bin/bash, the shebang. Then I write example2 as the comment. And then what it is asking me to do, it's asking me to first create a folder called test00 inside /temp. So to create a folder, I write the command mkdir test00. That is done. And inside where /temp. So that gives the entire thing. And then it is asking me to create 3 files, file 01, file 02, and file 03, I suppose. Yes. And then it's asking me to list them. So here the folder is created. We can echo it for informing the user. Folder test00 is created in /temp. That's fine. Now I create 3 blank files. For that we use the touch command /temp and then test00, because we want to create these files inside this directory. So let's first enter the directory. That would make things simpler. So we write cd, we enter the directory, and inside it we do touch file 01, file 02, and file 03. That is good enough. Now we can echo again. Files are created, then it's asking us to write to list those files. So let's do the simple command ls-add, because we are inside this directory already, so this would execute as well. So this is our shell script. It's ready for the second example. Now we will put executable permissions, for example 2.bash, so that becomes executable. Now we execute it. Here we made a mistake. We have not written slash here. So here that's corrected. Now here, if you make these kind of mistakes, you should try to read this is also a very good learner, because it's good that this happened. You can check the output bad interpreter bin bash. So I knew from there that I have not put the slash. So if you have these kind of errors, you should go back to the script and check what the problem was. Like we missed this slash, so it showed that the interpreter is not present, because we have slash bin bash, we don't have bin bash. Okay, so the error. Now we will be able to run it successfully. So now we again try this. So first, what does it show? Folder test0 is created in /temp, files are created, and it lists the files. So our script is working. So second thing is fulfilled. And the third script, what it is asking is write a shell script to delete file 03 created in the previous question, and also print the time after deletion of file. This is also simple. It's asking to delete this. Okay, so let's write another script, 3.bash. Again, this time we need to be careful while typing. bin/bin/bash, keybang is done. Comment, this is example 3, and then what we do, it's asking us to delete file 03 inside the directory which we created /temp/test00. So first thing we do is we enter /temp/test00. So once we have entered, what we can do is we can use the remove command, file 03. Okay, so that is done. Once it has done it, we can list just to check file 3 is gone or not, and then it's asking us to print the time after deletion. So I just write date, so it gives the time as well. So that is all. The script is ready. Now we will have to put this as executable, and now we execute this file. See, it's asking, you want to remove the file? I say yes. So the file is gone. Now just file 1 and file 2 are left, and after deletion the time was this. So this is pretty simple, and this is how you write shell scripts and execute them. So this is a very important, because if you want to move into the next level of shell scripting, you will have to learn about the conditionals, how to handle when certain conditions are given to a shell script, and then if you have repeated tasks to undertake, then what you need to do, you have to run some certain loops, and loops and conditionals can also go hand in hand together to handle some complex situations arising when you are running a shell script to automate certain tasks. So this is a kind of a bridge between the advanced shell scripting and the basic. So this is a very important piece of lesson. So you need to understand each and every basics which comprise this course. So let's get going. First of all, loops in shell script. What are loops? Loops are a programming tool that help you to execute a set of commands in a repeated fashion. So what is it actually? Say you want to print your name 10 times. Say if you want to print your name one time, what would you write in your shell script? You would just write echo and then give some double quotes and write your own name like this. Let's go to the terminal. Here I have a virtual box running, this one, and I am connecting to the same box using the terminal. So let me just set to remote login. I know the IP address of that box. So we put in password. So here we are in the shell of the root. So I log in as root so that I can run each and every command. So we are not blocked by any of for access reasons. So then let's see what is in here. Here I have a directory called shell scripting, inside which I have all the sample, all the scripts, the samples kept. And here today we are doing this loops and iterations. So let us enter that directory and see what is in there. Yeah, we have all various kind of example files. I would be sharing all these files along to you, so no worries. And we would be running each and every file and checking what is inside it. So in any case, you are going to know through this video so what is going on. So first of all, as I will, let's clear the screen, and what I was saying is here we have certain loop examples. Say you want to do something in repeated fashion, like say you want to echo your name, you want to print your name. So what do? We just write echo and then you type your name, press enter. Then what happens? Your name gets printed. And if I write this inside shell script, the same thing would happen. But say you want to print your name 10 times. So what would you do? Then no need to you need to write this command 10 times inside the shell script? Does that sound good? No, it does not, because shell script is something which should make your stuff easier, which should automate things. So you should not be writing 10 times the same command if you want to do that 10 times. So for such situations you use certain loops. Okay, a loop would execute a command according to the situation, I mean according to your instructions, and the number of times until certain conditions are met. So it would just reiterate, do it again and again and again until the condition is fulfilled. Say you have asked it to print the name 10 times, it would do one time, second time, and check the count again and again. Once the count reaches 10, then it stops. So you get your name printed 10 times. So that is how these things work, the loops. So let's try out what kinds of loops are there, and then we will try out each and every loop and understand the functionalities. So first of all, we have the while loop. The while loop is one of the interesting loops, and it is kind of a loop which executes once under a certain conditions. Like we declare it while so and so conditions are fulfilled, then do this. So that is how it works. Then we have the for loop. We'll go on and understand what it is, and it is a very popular and useful loop command which is used. And then we have the until loop, and then we have the select loop as well. Okay, so these are the four kinds of loops. These are the four kinds of loops which we used. We have this these are the four kinds of loops which we so we have, let's discuss So now let's discuss in detail what each and every of this loop does. The while loop, for loop, until loop, and the select loop. First of all, let's move on to the while loop. While explaining, I have chosen not to keep the definitions for each loop, and because in shell script, you should not be bothered about the definition of the while loop or all the theoretical stuff. You should be unable to understand what each thing does and how it works so that you can implement in your future scripts. So I have chosen just to keep a script here and explain what it does, and when you understand it that way, that what the while loop does, then you would be able to implement. And apart from that, you also learn the syntax in which the while loop is used. So I have done this for each and every thing which we are discussing in this tutorial. We will just discuss examples, the syntax, and the execution. So that will help you to in order to assimilate what is each of these conditionals, these operators are doing, and so that you can use it in your scripts. So in case of a while loop, just study this shell script. What is it doing? First of all, we are setting a variable that a is equal to 0. Fair enough. And then we move on to declare while $a is less than 10 minus LT is a operator which a number actually where this LT is stands for less than. So when we are telling that while $a is less than 10, do so and so the stuff. And then again we declare while this is greater than 0, then do this stuff, and then we exit after writing done. Okay, here you can see that there is just a shell script. I have done this intentionally. I have not included any definition for the loops which we are going to learn, or the conditionals, because if you want to really do shell scripting, you just have to understand the concepts and not remember the theoretical aspects like the definition. You should know what is a while loop, what is the syntax that is used when we do a while loop, and finally how to execute a while loop and under what conditions that will work. These are the important things. The understanding of the logic is the main thing here, instead of remembering theoretical aspects like what is while loop, what does it stands for, and stuff like that. So first of all, let's study this shell script which uses a while do, okay, the loop, and this is a nested loop as well, so that would help us to know better. Nested means a loop inside a loop, so you have two conditions being used here. So what this does, then we will execute it in our shell and just check it out. So first of all, let's study each and every line of this script, and then try to execute it once, and then we will be good to go. First of all, let's see what it does. It sets a variable a is equal to 0, correct? And then there is a loop while a is less than 10. You have used this operator in the previous session, so this is just a less than operator. While a is less than 10, this is a loop, the condition that if a is less than 10, then you do set another variable that b is equal to $a, okay, and then while $b, the new variable, is greater than 0, then do this. That means it will echo that variable, okay, and then it does a mathematical operation. It subtracts 1 from the variable, and then that loop is done. Otherwise it adds 1 to the variable. So this might seem confusing right now, so let's go and execute it and when you see the results, then we will come back again and then understand what happened. Okay, so first of all, let's list what is inside. I have already kept this while.bash. This is the same script that is being displayed here, the while loop script. So here it's the same script. I have typed it to save time. I have typed it beforehand, and let's execute it. Let's check whether this file has executable permission. Yes, it has. If not, then you can do chmod plus x and the file name, and then you can execute it with /. Okay, so now if I press enter, what do I see? A pretty pattern of numbers. So first it is 0 printed, then 1 0, then 2 1 0, then 3 2 1 0, 4 3 2 1 0. What do you notice from this pattern? There is a series of numbers here, and then in the second row there is a series of numbers which has 1 subtracted from the number on its left. Like here it is 2, so this is 2 minus 1, and then here it is 4, this is 4 minus 1, 3, stuff like that. Okay, similarly, if this is 1, then 1 minus 1 is 0. And now if this is 0, then you don't have anything printed here because the loop exits by then. So this is a pattern which we have tried to make. Now let's understand how it worked by looking at the script again. First a was set to 0, and if a was less than 10, which is the first loop, then we had to do this entire thing. Okay, so what was that? If a was less than 10, so in the first case when a was 0, it was less than 10, so the loop goes here, it sets b is equal to a, so now b becomes 0. Now it's asking it again in the second loop that if b is greater than 0, which is not the case in the first time, then we had to do this, but that was not the case. So what it does, it skips this loop and goes directly to here. It adds 1. Okay, so what happened exactly is a was 0, it was less than 10, that condition was true, so it entered this loop, and then here b becomes a because here it's written b is $a, so b becomes 0 now. Then it asks again if b is greater than 0. So first time b is 0, which is equal to 0, not greater than 0, so this loop becomes false, so this exits its loop and comes here, and then that job is done. So it just echoes the first character, which was this 0. Okay, so in the second run, what happens when it loops through the next conditions, because now a was incremented by 1, so it goes into the next condition. If a is less than 10, that is true, again enters here. Now at this point of time, b becomes 1, and this condition now becomes true because b is greater than 0, and it echoes b. So there we get this 1 because b is greater than 0, so it echoes b, so b now was 1, so it prints 1. Okay, then it goes on and does it again and again. I ask you to just write it by hand in one script and then read and understand each and every line again and again. Ask yourself, think over it. There is no shortcut to understanding what it is doing, but you have to study the script. Don't get puzzled by all the symbols, the codes and stuff like that which comprises a shell script. Just understand what it does. So while loop is used when you want to mention a certain condition, that if a is less than 10, then do some other command. Okay, if a is greater than 0, then do something. Okay, here you can use here we have done a mathematical operation. You can also do something else, like say you're wanting to print your name and your name only if your age is greater than 20. Okay, so first what you can do it using this while loop as well. First you will ask the user the name, okay, and then store it in a variable, and then you can ask the user the age, store it in a variable, say b, and then you can run this while loop, that while age $age is less than 20, then do nothing, so exit, and say if greater than 20, then print my name. Okay, so you can write echo over there and do stuff. So these are the various types of examples where you can use the while loop. So you go through this again and try it yourself. If you have any questions, you can always ask us and we will be ready to help you. You can mail us your own script if it is not working properly, so we can fix that as well. So next loop is the for loop. The for loop here, we have a simple example to span through the given list of numbers. Like here we have a list of numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for loop, what it does, it reads each and every number in a list, number or names or whatever you type it in a sequence, and then it can do operations on that. Like say here what we are doing, we are setting a variable which changes into 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that in sequence, and then for each sequence we just echo that number. So what we do for var in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9, we do echo the var. So first time it runs, it goes and reads the variable as 0 and sets the var value as 0. So then we echo var, so it echoes 0, and next time it sets the var as 1. So when we echo var, it prints 1, and so on till 9. So what happens if we run this script? It would just print 0, 1, 2, 3 up till 9, okay, automatically, because the loop will run again and again. For var in 0, print 0, for var in 1, print 1. So this happens in loop, so it will print 9 numbers. So here you can see the utility of the for loop and how it is different from the while loop we did. In while, we had a condition that if something is less than something, then do something. If something is greater than something, then do another thing. So stuff like that. But here we have a list and ask it to execute something according to the list again and again. So if you want to see do things in iteration for a list of subjects, then you can run this. So let's run this loop here. We already have the script for the for loop. Let's check this script out. Here for var in this echo $var. So we can use it /for. So we execute this. See, we have a list of numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is how the for loop works. Let's use for loop for another interesting example. For loop can also do interesting things, like just study this shell script. Here what we have done for file in, you can see this capital letter stuff, file. This is not a command, this is a variable. Okay, so we are setting a variable. That file is a list inside etc directory. Okay, so what we are doing actually is, here we are trying to do etc/n star. You have known by now that star stands for deleting, I mean, when you have used deletions, you might have done rm minus rf etc and then say star for deleting all the files and directories inside the etc directory and stuff like that. So this asterisk or star is the wildcard character in Linux, where which denotes that all the files which start with the letter N, and that can be anything after that. So it starts with N and anything after that. So what we are doing here is we are using the for loop and assigning a variable which stores all the file names inside etc which begin with N. Okay, and then we want to print those names of the files so that we get all the files which start with the word N. So this is pretty interesting. Now let's see, let's run that script. What was the name? It was this. Now I execute it. It gives me a list of files of etc directory which start with N. So that is how the script works. Now this is a pretty small script but very powerful. You just remember how for loop is used here. First of all, for is used to declare a variable inside which you have an array of values. Like in the previous examples, we said that for var in 0, 1, 2, 3 up till 9. So similarly here also we tell it that it is an array of values which is all the files which start with n, and then we print. So here if you want to store a series of values, an array or a sequence, then we use the for loop, and it is pretty useful in certain shell scripts where we need to list array and then execute something over it. In some of the future lessons where we have some advanced shell scripting, you will be able to understand more about the for loop and how it is used. Right now you can just try out such simple examples of the for loop. So let's move on to the next loop. So that is the until loop. The until loop is a loop which will also do certain things like the for loop and the previous loops which we have used until a condition is met. So this simple script will help you to understand. We set a variable a is equal to 0, and until not $a is less than 10, do echo a. So what it does, you have to run the script once and then know for yourself. See, we use the loop to do the same thing which we did with the for loop. Okay, so what was the difference here? Told it that a is 0 and until not a is less than 10, echo a and increment a by 1. So we tell the script that until a is not less than 10, you just increment the variable by 1 and print it. So what it does, first a is 0, so it is less than 10, a is echoed, so 0 is echoed first, and then it increments the variable a by 1, so now a becomes 0 plus 1, that is 1, then again goes to the loop. 1 is also less than 10, so again it echoes a, which was 1 now, so 1 is printed here. Then it increments a by 1, so a becomes 1 plus 1, 2, and again goes into the loop. So 2 is also less than 10, then 2 is echoed, so here we get 2, and so on again and again, until at last when 9 plus 1 becomes 10 in the final loop, and then it is not less than 10, so that loop is done. So it directly skips these lines and comes to the end. So until loop will start doing stuff until a certain condition is met. When that is met, it goes to done. So this is how loop works. You can see a familiar pattern. All the loops work in almost similar fashion, but they have different utilities. While loop, until a certain condition is met, it works. And here for loop, there is an array, and until loop, again just like the while loop, you have certain conditions to be fulfilled, and up till that it works. Now it is interesting to note that this until loop is available in the bash script. There are certain other scripts where, I mean the shells, where until loop doesn't execute, and people have to work out with using the for loop and the while loop combination. So you can do the same thing using multiple versions of the loops, but you should know each and every syntax so that you become empowered with all the tools to write good shell scripts. So next comes an important loop. Loop looks a bit complex, but it's pretty useful as well. The select loop, this is also specific to bash, so you should try it in a bash shell. And anyways, bash is one of the most powerful and secure shells which are available right now, so you should try writing bash scripts if you are into shell scripting. So here we have a select loop where what we do, we give a option to the user to select a drink, which could be tea, coffee. Here we have a list of conditions, that tea, coffee, water, juice, soda, all or none. So this is a menu which we provide to the user. So we use this syntax: select, drink is the variable, inside it there are all these values which we want to list. Okay, now what happens, there is a condition, that case $drink in within all this. If the user selects tea, coffee, water and all, then we ask the user to go to the canteen. If the user selects juice or soda, then we say that it's available at home. And finally, if the user selects this none, then we ask the code to exit by using break statement. Okay, and if the user selects something else other than this menu, then we print error invalid selection. So we write echo invalid selection. Then once this is done, we escape out of it. Okay, so the case ends here. Case ends with ESSE, and that is the syntax. So this is the syntax. When we write select drink, drink is the variable in the list of the menu, then do, and then inside it you write the case and then you end the case. Okay, so I hope you understood this script. Again, let me iterate it. You have, we are giving the user a menu and then asking the user to select any of these beverages provided in the menu. Now if the user selects tea, coffee, water and all, then we will print that you have to go to canteen. And if the user selects juice or soda, then we will print it's available at home. So this select loop helps you to provide a menu to the user, and based on their selections we can give them certain outputs. So this can be useful in many other cases as well. Like we will give a menu to the user to select three colors, like any of the three colors. Now if this user selects red, then we say that he is angry today. Now if the user selects green, we say that he is jealous today, or something, whatever the color signifies. So that way we can interact with the user as well. So this is a pretty important loop. So let's now check this shell script and see how the loop works. So the select loop here is that loop which we were discussing. So I have typed it in here, and we have the list, and then we have the case, that what happens, what to print when the user selects so and so stuff. If the user selects juice, then we print this, and if the user selects something else, we invalid, and if the user selects none, we make it exit. So let's run that script. First of all, when we run the script, we can see that we are provided with a menu with numbers. Okay, so now say the user selects 2, which is coffee. So now we can see it prints go to canteen, which is what we did. Now in juice, I think we had said that it's available at home. So say the user selects 4 now. It says yes, it's available at home. If the user selects all of it, so that is not at home, so it will have to go to the canteen. So go to canteen. Now say the user selects something which is not present in this list, 9, invalid selection. So our scripts are working perfectly, and say the user selects none, so none is here, number 7. So if we give 7, then we exit. So that is how the select loop works. Now you can take your time after learning each loop. You can pause the video and think over it and try the command and then move on further. But for the sake of completion, I'm moving on to the next, the conditionals. Okay, the conditionals are very important, a very important part of a shell script. Here what happens, most of the cases when we run a shell script, we are faced with conditions. If this happens, do this. If this happens, then do this. If not, then do this. And if there is certain other condition, then is exit out of the shell, and stuff like that. So conditionals are very important. This is the normal syntax by which we use conditions. So conditions, normally conditionals have if then else statements, and we have another statement called else if. Okay, elif written here. So what we do, if, and inside square brackets we have certain expressions which has the condition inside it, and then we run certain commands. Say if there is a certain file inside the etc directory, if that file exists, then we run echo the file exists. Else, if that is not present, then we echo that it does not exist, and so on. So this else if all these are various conditionals which can help you make decisions when running an algorithm. So this is how it works. So let's do some real scripts and see what exactly it is. So first, here we have a shell script where we ask the user to enter the login name. Login name means the name which we are using to log in into the shell, like this one. Here you can see I have logged in as root user. I can even check it using who am I command. Yes, so I am the root user. Okay, so that is the username it is asking. So if you run the script will ask to enter your login name. Say we have entered root, then what it does, it reads the user input. You know from the previous session that read command reads the variable inputted. So now it stores the name of your login user. Now what it does, I say that if $name is $user, then this is a environment variable which stores the name of the user. You can check it out here. If I print echo $user, I can see the answer is root. So that means this is an environment variable. When you log into the system, the operating system has some environment variables allotted to the user. So $user is the variable which tells the user name. You can even know the shell that user is using $shell. So these variables have not been set. They are just available from the environment by when the user logs in by reading from its profile. There is a directory, there's a file in fact. Here you can, sorry, you have to do this in the home directory, and it's a hidden file, so we give ls-al. Here you can see .bash profile, .bash rc. These are the files which store the environment variables. So we can open it this way, vi bash rc. When you have spare time, you can go through these files and understand exactly what these files are. So here you can see certain variables are set, certain les commands are set here. Okay, there are other such files as well, like this one, which have environment variables set. Sorry, I did the same thing again. It's inside /root. Here certain environment variables and paths are exported. Okay, so these are something about environment variables. We'll discuss them more in further sessions. So here our interest is this user variable $user. This is an environment variable that stores the actual login name. So here we are asking the user to enter his login name, and then we are storing it inside a variable called $name, and then we are comparing it with the $user environment variable. And now if the user entered name and the environment variable matches, then we say that hello user, how are you today? And if in case user login name, the user types is something which doesn't match the actual Linux user who has logged in, then we type that you are not the user, who are you? Okay, so this is the thing the script does. So let's then check that script here and try it out. This is the conditional script. Again, you can see first what we do, we use echo to print that enter your login name, the user does. So we read that input using read command, and this is the if conditional. The syntax, as I said, if, and then inside square brackets you write the condition, if so and so is equal to so and so, or if something is not equal to something, or if something exists or not. So these kind of conditions you can write here. I'll tell you how many kinds of conditions you can use. So first, now we have a equality condition here. If some variable is equal to some variable, end it with the semicolon, echo something else, echo something else, or do something else. Okay, so this is the syntax in which we have written the script. Let's run it, conditional1 underscore bash. So first of all, it's going to the first echo that asking us our login name. Say I write my login name is root. Hello root, how are you today? And the script exits. So it works because our name and our shell login is same. Okay, so it is working correctly. Now say I am root user, as you can see here, but say if I write something false, like I'm not a root user, I am Tom. Okay, so it checks it, compares it with the $user variable, and finds that $user is root, but this one is Tom. So it is asking that you are not root, who are. So this is how this script works. So this is very interesting and very useful as well. Okay, now let me, before going into the second script, let me go to this slide and tell you a few more things. As I said, this condition in here, like equal to or something, you can use other conditions as well, like -d, -f, and -e inside the square bracket. If you write -d and give the path of a directory, then it will check if the directory exists or not. If it does not exist, then it will give false. Okay, if it exits, then it will run that command. Say you want to delete a directory if it exits, so you can write -d, the path to the directory. If it exists, then you write the rm command and delete the directory, else you print the directory does not exist. So this is how you can use these expressions. For file also the same thing, if a file exists or not. If you do -e, it tells you the file exists or not. Okay, if you do -f, it checks if the path given is a file. -d, if a path given is a directory. So here we can use these expressions called file operators to check files and directories. Now let's come back to the second script. The second script is a bit more complex, but pretty interesting. First of all, we echo that enter any number which is greater than 1 but less than 10. So the user will input a number, so it will read that number from the user input. Now we are giving a condition in if, that if the number is less than 10, then you go into another loop. So here we are using nested loop, if loop inside another if loop. Say you have to do two conditions, you have to check two conditions, then you use this. First, number is less than 10, then check again if the number is greater than 1. If that both are true, then you multiply number into number, that is the square of the number, and then store it in a variable here, number into $number, and then that variable is stored, and if that happens, then that variable is echoed. Okay, after that calculation happens, we echo that variable because we are telling that echo $number into $number, which is equal to this operation. So that it happens in runtime and we echo that. Okay, say these conditions are not met or one of the condition fails, then the loop exits to else, then we say it is a wrong insertion. Okay, or say the second one fails, then again it goes to else. Like this fails, it goes here, this fails, it goes here. Okay, so the user is asked to input again because this is wrong. Okay, so this is how the script works. Let's try that script again. Here we have this. Let's go into the second script, conditional 2.bash. Okay, so this is the same script which we discussed. Now let's run it and then check the output. Conditional 2.bash. It's asking to enter a number which is greater than 1 but less than 10. So say I type 5. So what it does, it checks that whether this condition is fulfilled or not, it is less than 10 or not, it is greater than 1 or not. So once that is fulfilled, then it goes to the then clause and then does this operation 5 into 5 equal to 25. So this is how this works, and it works perfectly. Let's check if the loop, if we write something wrong, the loop detects it correctly or not. 1 is less than, so we have to give a number. Say I give a number 99. So 99 is clearly greater than 10, so the condition will fail. So it writes wrong insertion. Similarly, say I give the number 1. So 1 is not greater than 1. So again, wrong insertion. So this is how it is working. We are doing multiple loops inside it, nested, and then checking all the conditions we want, and according to the result we print the output. Okay, and one thing you should remember in the syntax for the if loop is, if loop should have a square bracket with the conditional, and then it should have a semicolon, and then you write the statements after then. If you want another loop, you can keep another loop. You can use else if you want a third thing to be inserted, but always close the if with the fi. Okay, see here we have two nested ifs. This one is closed here. This is the loop which closes here. So there is one big loop. Inside it there is another small loop. You should study this and try yourself so that you will get an understanding. If you have questions, you can come back to us anytime. And then finally this one, as I said, inside the if loop in the square brackets we can check the existence of files and directory paths. So we use these file operators for that. For an example, we have a shell script here for file existence check. This one, check file. When you see this, you'll understand this is a pretty simple if loop again. Say we have stored a variable that the file is etc hosts. Okay, we want to check whether this file exists or not. So what do? We use this operator -f. As I said, it checks whether a path exists or not. So we have given the path that etc hosts is the path where a file resides, and we want it to check if f file, that means if this condition is met, then we say that file is found, and if this condition is not met, we say that file is not found. So it's simple, and we do fi to exit the if loop. Let's run this and check what happens. Check file.bash, it shows that yes, it is found. So that is great. Now let's modify it a bit and write some random path which does not exist. So it should check there and fail and show us that it does not exist. So I write xx, we don't have this directory, so it should fail, and we run it again. So it shows clearly this path is not found. So here we can use this if loop to check the existence of certain files, and we can know that it exists or not. So I am fixing this script again and storing it. So that is done. So these are all we had to learn today. You have to go through this. It was a lot of new stuff. You have to know when to use which of these loops and conditionals, and practice a bit. Then we will follow up with some advanced shell scripts which will help you to understand these better and try to implement it in real world situations.
So we have a question for you. In shell scripting, what does $hash stand for? Option A will return number of error. Option B, it will return the number of parameters that are passed as command line arguments. Option C, error. And option D, all the above are incorrect. So put down your answers in the comment section so as to check if you have answered correctly. So this brings us to the end of this session. If you have any queries, do comment below. We'd love to help you out. Also, do subscribe to our channel so that you never miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Thank you.